Hey everyone, welcome to my channel Dental Edge. I'm Dr. Bhanu Chugh. I'm an MDS in oral pathology and today I'll be sharing with you what is a leukoplakia. Now leukoplakia, it's a very commonly asked topic and it can be asked as a short note or it can be asked as a long answer or as part of fill up the blanks, MCQ or any other viva questions can be asked from the same. Also, in your clinical practice or while doing OPD in the college, you will see many patients with leukoplakia. So you should know this lesion very nicely. But before that, if you are new to my channel and are interested in dental videos, do consider subscribing it and click the bell icon so you don't miss anything. Now, let's get started with today's topic, that is leukoplakia. Now, leukoplakia, it is also known as leukokeratosis. Now let's first divide the word leukoplakia into two parts, that is leuko and plakia, so that you know what it is. The word leuko means white and plakia means a patch or a plaque, so it is a white plaque. So remember that leukoplakia, it's a white patch or a white plaque present in the oral cavity. The name itself suggests the same. Now this leukoplakia, why is it so important? Because it is a pre-malignant lesion, or now recently it has been called as a potentially malignant disorder, and it is the most common pre-malignant lesion. To know leukoplakia, you should also know what are pre-malignant lesions and conditions. A lecture has already been uploaded for the same. So I'll mention the link for the same below in the description box as well as here up on the I button. Do check pre-malignant lesions and conditions as well so that you are clear about leukoplakia. To brief, leukoplakia, it's the most common pre-malignant lesion. In viva, you can be asked enumerate pre-malignant lesion. So leukoplakia is an example of pre-malignant lesion. What do we mean by pre-malignant lesion or a potentially malignant disorder? It is a lesion or a disorder in which there is more chance of occurrence of cancer as compared to a normal tissue, and that is why leukoplakia is important. It is a lesion in which there is an increased chance of occurrence of carcinoma or cancer, right? So it is important that you see it in a patient at an early stage. Various studies have shown that 0.6 to 20% rate of malignant transformation of leukoplakia. So all leukoplakias will not turn into cancer, but there is 0.6 to 20% rate of malignant transformation of leukoplakia into a carcinoma. Now, this is another viva question. You can be asked which is the most common pre-malignant lesion. So it is leukoplakia. There is one more term which is called as erythroplakia. This erythroplakia, it is not the most common, but it has the highest chance of conversion into cancer. So there can be two questions. Which is the most common pre-malignant lesion? So it is leukoplakia is the most common pre-malignant lesion, although the malignant transformation is 0.6 to 20%. And which is the pre-malignant lesion which has the highest chance of converting into cancer, that is erythroplakia. A separate lecture will be taken for erythroplakia. So this was the brief for leukoplakia. So it is a white patch. If you can appreciate here, this is the white patch on the buccal mucosa and this is the leukoplakia. Now the thing is, how will you diagnose leukoplakia? So leukoplakia, it is a diagnosis of exclusion. By this I mean, if a white patch cannot be characterized as any other lesion or disease, then we put it into leukoplakia based on the history of the patient and the clinical examination. So diagnosis is based on exclusion of other lesions which present as oral white plaques, that is white, oral white plaques. So if a white plaque, it cannot be characterized as any other disease or lesion, then we place it into the diagnosis of leukoplakia. For example, Candidiasis also appears white in color, but candidiasis can be scraped off with the help of a gauze piece. So if I see a white patch in the patient's mouth and I try to remove it with a gauze piece and I'm not able to remove it, then it is not candida. So, and I'll also relate it with other diseases. If I feel that it is not falling under any category, then I'll put it into leukoplakia. So leukoplakia is a diagnosis of exclusion. If you feel that you cannot characterize it as any other white lesion, then you can place it as a provisional diagnosis or a clinical diagnosis of leukoplakia. So examples of other white lesions are hypertrophic lichen planus, chronic cheek bite, frictional keratosis, tobacco-induced keratosis, leukoedema, white sponge nevus. So what I will do is, I see a white patch in the patient, I will look for some characteristic features of these lesions. If I feel okay, it is not falling under any category, then I will place it under leukoplakia. So coming to the definition, extremely important is the definition of leukoplakia. As I told you, a predominantly white lesion of the oral mucosa. We know it's a white lesion, leukoplakia. That cannot be characterized as any other definable lesion. I cannot put it into any other definable lesion. Then I put it into leukoplakia. Some oral leukoplakias will transform into cancer, right? This definition was given by Excel in 1996. So, leukoplakia, it's a clinical term. What do I mean by a clinical term? If I see a suspicious lesion in the oral cavity which is white in color, I will give a provisional diagnosis or a clinical diagnosis of leukoplakia. Then I will take a biopsy, that is, I'll take a small tissue from that lesion, and after seeing the biopsy, I will not give a diagnosis as leukoplakia. I will give the histological diagnosis. That is there presence of abnormal cells? Is there presence of epithelial dysplasia? Or have the abnormal cells already caused cancer? So in simple words, leukoplakia, it's a clinical diagnosis. It's a clinical term. I will not give a final diagnosis as leukoplakia. In the final diagnosis, I will write what I see histologically. So a white patch, if I take a biopsy, maybe it has not yet converted into cancer. Maybe there is no indication of cancer. Maybe I see some indication of epithelial dysplasia. So whatever I see in the slide, I will mention it in the report and I will give a histological diagnosis, and leukoplakia will never be given as the final diagnosis. So leukoplakia, it's a clinical term only indicating that there is presence of white patch or plaque of oral mucosa. Remember that it cannot be rubbed off. How will you differentiate between candidiasis and leukoplakia? Candida can be rubbed off, this cannot be rubbed off. It cannot be characterized clinically as any other disease, I told you. And biopsy is mandatory to establish a definite diagnosis. When biopsy taken, the term leukoplakia is replaced by the diagnosis obtained histologically. Leukoplakia, it is localized in distribution. That is, it is a lesion. A lesion is localized and a condition is generalized. So it is a pre-malignant lesion. So it is localized. If you see this image, can you appreciate this white patch which is localized? So it is localized. Hyperkeratotic, that is, there is increased keratin production. Remember that in leukoplakia, there is increased keratin production. Therefore, it appears white in color. So, as I told you, it is white in appearance due to wetting of keratotic patch. A keratotic patch is formed, more keratin is formed, it gets wet by the saliva and therefore it appears white in color. It is white in appearance due to wetting of keratotic patch while in contact with saliva. So either there is a thickened keratotic patch or there is thickened spinous layer which masks the vascularity of the underlying connective tissue. So if this is the epithelium, so there will be increased production of the keratin layer. This is point number 1, that is hyperkeratotic patch is there. Therefore, when this patch it gets wet by saliva, the lesion it appears white in color. The second point is there is epithelial hyperplasia. What do you mean by hyperplasia? Hyperplasia means increase in number of cells. So the thickness of the epithelium is increased. There is epithelial hyperplasia, and due to this increased thickness of the epithelium, the underlying blood vessels, the blood vessels that are present below in the connective tissue, the color of this is not visible, and therefore it appears white in color. So why is leukoplakia white in color? First, increased keratin production, which is called as hyperkeratosis. This can be either orthokeratin or parakeratin. Or there is increased thickness of the epithelium, that is there is epithelial hyperplasia, and due to which the underlying connective tissue vascularity is barred off and the lesion appears white in color. So this is what you will see in histology. You will see hyperkeratosis, you will see epithelium with a thickened hyperkeratinized layer, and you will see increased thickness of the normal epithelium. So leukoplakia, it is an adaptive response of a healthy oral mucosa to low-grade irritation. Whenever there is leukoplakia, you have to understand there is some kind of irritation, right? It can be either mechanical irritation. For example, there is a long-standing ill-fitting denture that is irritating the patient. So there can be development of leukoplakia, or some sharp tooth is there that is causing trauma on a regular basis, on a chronic basis, which can lead to a reaction of the mucosa. The mucosa is trying to adapt itself, and adapt by protecting itself. How will it protect itself? By hyperkeratinization, by epithelial hyperplasia, and a white patch is formed. So there can be mechanical irritation, there can be chemicals from the tobacco. Tobacco is one of the most common cause for leukoplakia. So there can be chemical or galvanic irritation. So remember that if there is presence of leukoplakia, there has to be presence of some kind of low-grade irritation, sustainable low-grade irritation to the oral mucosa. So as I told you, the mucosa, it is trying to adapt to the noxious stimuli by undergoing hyperkeratinization of its surface, and this is an example of tissue adaptation. Now let's see the etiology of leukoplakia. So the first and the most common etiology is use of tobacco, and tobacco also, leukoplakia is more common. People who smoke tobacco rather than tobacco chewers. Although it can be seen in tobacco chewers, but it is more commonly seen in smokers than non-smokers, right? So it is more commonly seen in smokers. And reducing or cessation of tobacco may result in regression or disappearance of the oral leukoplakia. So you should ask the patient to stop the habit, and it can lead to regression. It will reduce, the lesion will reduce, or disappearance of the lesion. Then the other factors are alcohol abuse, Candida albicans infection, chronic trauma, sanguinaria. Although their role is not very clear. For example, alcohol, its individual role is questionable, that it can alone lead to leukoplakia, but alcohol along with tobacco can have a synergistic effect, a higher effect for formation of leukoplakia. Then Candida can have a role. Then chronic trauma, as I told you, ill-fitting denture, some kind of sharp cusp which is irritating constantly. These things can also lead to leukoplakia. Sanguinaria, these are herbal extracts present in certain toothpaste, and it has also been thought, although not very clear, can be a cause for leukoplakia. UV rays can lead to leukoplakia of lower lip vermilion. Then Human papilloma virus strains like 16 and 18, although it is not very certain, but it may have a role in that. Genetic factors, little known is about it, its role in the formation of leukoplakia, and certain nutritional factors have been cited, especially iron deficiency, anemia. But the most common cause is tobacco for formation of leukoplakia. Now let's see the clinical features of leukoplakia. Now first let's see in which age it is seen. So middle age to older individuals, and peak incidences above 50 years. That is, as the age increases, the chance of having leukoplakia is more common. So you should know that middle age or in old individuals it is more commonly seen, and peak incidences over 50 years of age. Next, gender predilection varies in different studies. Strong male predilection is seen in India. In Western culture, 1:1, that is equal predilection is seen in male and female, but in India it is more commonly seen in males than in females. Coming to the site of occurrence, it can occur in any site in the oral cavity. Common sites are buccal mucosa, gingiva, lip vermilion, tongue, floor of the mouth. And remember that a leukoplakia showing malignancy or malignant transformation is more common in tongue or in floor of the mouth, right? So these are more suspicious areas. Coming to the clinical appearance of leukoplakia. Leukoplakia, it is a white patch, but it can have a diverse clinical appearance, and with time its appearance often changes. Now let's see what is pre-leukoplakia. It is a low grade of very mild reaction of the oral mucosa, appearing as a grey or greyish white, but never completely white area, with a slightly lobular pattern and with indistinct borders blending into the adjacent normal mucosa. So basically pre-leukoplakia, it's a very initial stage of leukoplakia when it is developing, and it is greyish white or grey in color, and it is thin, and it is a very initial reaction of the oral mucosa. Then there is mild or thin leukoplakia. This is again a very initial stage. It is soft and flat and is sometimes wrinkled or fissured. Borders are sharply demarcated. It's a white plaque which is very thin, and this is called as mild or thin leukoplakia, and it rarely shows abnormal cells. That is, it rarely shows epithelial dysplasia. Then is thick or homogeneous leukoplakia. Later, the lesions become thicker, extend laterally, and become more whitish in color. The fissures may become deepen, and the surface, it is leathery on palpation. This homogeneous leukoplakia, thick leukoplakia, when it is palpated, it has a leathery, dry or like cracked mud appearance. If you palpate it with the finger, it has a cracked mud appearance. It is thick, white, well distinct plaque in the oral mucosa. If you can appreciate here, this is a homogeneous, that is completely white in color leukoplakia. Again, this is another in the floor of the mouth, a very well defined white lesion, and this is homogeneous leukoplakia. Then there is granular or nodular leukoplakia. Some severe lesions, they develop surface irregularities. They have certain irregularities on the surface like nodules or granular, and are designated as granular or nodular leukoplakia. This is a leukoplakia on the floor of the mouth, and it is showing slight surface irregularities. Coming to verrucous leukoplakia, when this white patch, it shows blunt projections, papillary projections. If it shows projections, then it is called as verrucous leukoplakia. If you can appreciate this small blunt projection, this is on the alveolar ridge, this lesion, and this is called as verrucous leukoplakia, a white patch which is showing blunt projections. Coming to the next, that is erythroleukoplakia or speckled leukoplakia or non-homogeneous leukoplakia. Erythro, this word only means red, and leuko we know it means white. So if there is mixed red and white lesions, then it is called as erythroleukoplakia, red and white plaque or speckled leukoplakia or non-homogeneous. We saw white plaques which were called as homogeneous leukoplakia. If it is mixed red and white plaque, then it is called as non-homogeneous leukoplakia. So mixed red and white lesions are designated as erythroleukoplakia, speckled leukoplakia or non-homogeneous leukoplakia. These lesions which show mixed red and white areas, they have a higher rate of malignant transformation, right? So you have to be very cautious while checking a patient. If you see a red and white lesion, then you should definitely go for a biopsy. So these lesions have been shown to have a higher malignant transformation rate. This is a mixed red and white lesion. Next is proliferative verrucous leukoplakia. So it is a aggressive variant of leukoplakia. I will not teach this in detail. Sometimes a short note is asked on proliferative verrucous leukoplakia. In case you want a lecture on that, to let me know in the comment box and I'll make a lecture on this. But in short, it is an aggressive variant of leukoplakia and it is common in females. Maybe there is no history for alcohol or tobacco and you will see it in females more commonly. Initially there is a single lesion, but later on it progresses to multiple lesion and it has high recurrence rate and malignant transformation. For example, a patient has single lesion at one time, later on there will be development of multiple lesions and more commonly in females, and there is no history and it has high malignant transformation. If you can see this image, there is multiple lesions in the oral cavity. This is a lesion, another lesion is there. So it is an aggressive variant of leukoplakia, right? That is proliferative verrucous leukoplakia. So these are certain images. These are blunt projection. It looks like a verrucous leukoplakia on the buccal mucosa. Again a leukoplakia on the soft palate. A leukoplakia on the lateral border of the tongue. This is a homogeneous leukoplakia on the floor of the mouth. Then again a leukoplakia on the commissure. This is an erythroleukoplakia or non-homogeneous type. Red and white lesions are there. This appears like a nodular leukoplakia, right? So what all we have seen? Leukoplakia is a white patch. It is a potentially malignant lesion or a pre-malignant lesion. It is common in basically tobacco users and in smokers. Remember, smokers, if a smoker patient comes to you, check the oral cavity very nicely. Then there are various types. It has clinically it can have a homogeneous appearance or a non-homogeneous appearance. So there can be diverse appearance. A term was given pre-leukoplakia, which is very initial stage. Then mild or thin, that is mild or thin white plaque is there. Then thick plaque is there, thick homogeneous white plaque is there. Then certain surface irregularities are there. Then it is called as granular or nodular leukoplakia. In case finger-like projections are there, then it is called as verrucous leukoplakia. And if it is a mixed red and white lesion, then it is called as a erythroleukoplakia or a non-homogeneous leukoplakia. An aggressive variant is called as proliferative verrucous leukoplakia. Now, to record leukoplakia nicely, WHO in 1980 it gave it a table to show the to record the forms of leukoplakia. So there is homogeneous leukoplakia, that is lesions that are uniformly white in color. Then non-homogeneous leukoplakia, that is lesions in which part of the lesion is white and the rest appears red, and we have seen homogeneous is white, non-homogeneous is red and white lesions. Further, it elaborated and subdivided it into homogeneous into if the surface is smooth, then you can mark it as smooth, furrowed or fissured or ulcerated, and non-homogeneous as nodulo-speckled when there is presence of well-demarcated raised white areas interspersed with reddened areas. This clinical classification was given by WHO in 1980. So what all will be provided in the form? Either it is homogeneous with smooth or fissured, homogeneous with ulcerated, non-homogeneous nodulo-speckled. Then remember that homogeneous, that is which is completely white in color, it is usually asymptomatic and show a very low risk of malignant transformation, right? And the non-homogeneous erythroleukoplakia, it is painful. Patient may complain of itching and discomfort, and it shows a high risk of malignant transformation. So homogeneous has a less risk of malignant transformation, non-homogeneous has a more risk of malignant transformation. Now coming to the histopathology of leukoplakia, as I told you, leukoplakia is a clinical term. Only clinically I can say, okay, there's presence of a white patch, patient has a history of tobacco, it looks like a leukoplakia. Then I'll take a biopsy. Now in biopsy, what all will be seen is hallmark of histopathology of leukoplakia are, what all you will see are epithelial hyperplasia. Epithelial hyperplasia, I've already explained it. Hyper means more number of cells. So the thickness of epithelium will increase. The thickness of the epithelium will increase. Surface hyperkeratosis. The surface will show more amount of keratin production. So there will be keratin production. There is hyperkeratosis. You should know there can be either hyperparakeratosis or hyperorthokeratosis. What do we mean by parakeratosis? When parakeratin, that is the keratin layer, it will show pycnotic nuclei, then it is called as parakeratosis. And when there will be no nuclei, then it is called as orthokeratosis. So abnormal keratin production is there, more keratin production is there, and it can be either para or it can be ortho. So two things we have seen. The epithelium will show hyperplasia, increase in thickness of the spinous layer cell, and then there will be surface hyperkeratosis. So more keratin production can be there. This can be either parakeratin or this can be either orthokeratin, right? Now one of the most important point in this is there will be epithelial dysplasia, may be or may not be present. You should know what is epithelial dysplasia. In case of question on leukoplakia, you will have to write about epithelial dysplasia. I have already made a detailed half-an-hour lecture on what is epithelial dysplasia. I'll mention the link for the same below in the description box as well as here up on the screen. Check that as well and write the points of epithelial dysplasia also in leukoplakia. So to brief you, epithelial dysplasia is there are certain abnormal changes that are taking place in the cells individually as well as at the tissue level. So there will be increased mitotic figures, the nuclei will increase in size, the nuclei will be hyperchromatic, that they will be darkly stained, then the cells, they will show loss of cohesion. So these all features are included in epithelial dysplasia. In the report of a leukoplakia, in a histopathologic report, you will have to write either there is presence or absence of epithelial dysplasia. Remember, leukoplakia is a clinical term. Clinically, I can say it's a leukoplakia, but when I see a biopsy, I cannot write there is leukoplakia. I will have to write there is presence of epithelial hyperplasia, there is presence of surface hyperkeratosis, or there is presence or absence of epithelial dysplasia. And if epithelial dysplasia, that is abnormality of cells and overall at the tissue architecture change will take place, it may range from mild to severe. You have to write is there presence of mild, moderate or severe epithelial dysplasia. Sometimes carcinoma in situ will be there. For all these things, watch that lecture. And even squamous cell carcinoma are encountered histologically. Right? So you have to mention these 3 points in leukoplakia histopathology. These are the features of epithelial dysplasia. They are explained in detail in that lecture. Now you have to write this epithelial dysplasia, either it is mild. When is it mild? When this dysplasia, these changes in the cell and at the tissue level are limited to the lower 1/3 of the epithelium, then it is called as mild epithelial dysplasia. When it extends into the 2/3 of the epithelium, then it is called as moderate, and when it includes more than 2/3 of the epithelium, then it is called as severe. When this epithelial dysplasia, the abnormal cells, they are present throughout the thickness of the epithelium, then it is called as carcinoma in situ. And when cancer takes place, cancer takes place when these abnormal cells, they break the basement membrane and they come down in the connective tissue. So when invasion takes place of these dysplastic cells, then cancer takes place. So why am I explaining all these things? In a biopsy of leukoplakia, you can see presence or absence of epithelial dysplasia. Sometimes this dysplasia is mild, sometimes it is moderate, sometimes it's severe, sometimes already cancer has taken place. Therefore, the biopsy of the leukoplakia is mandatory, right? So how will you do the histopath of leukoplakia? What will you write in the answer? Epithelial hyperplasia, then surface hyperkeratosis, then epithelial dysplasia present or absent. Write in the answer all the features of epithelial dysplasia. Then is it mild, moderate, severe? Now there is a modified classification and staging system for oral leukoplakia. This can be sometimes asked as a short note to write about the modified classification or write about the staging system for oral leukoplakia. It was given by Wonderwall in 2000. It is based on, that is, we'll do the staging of the leukoplakia based on certain features, based on the size of the lesion and the presence or absence of epithelial dysplasia. So 4 stages are recognized. So this system, it will facilitate uniformity in the reporting of treatment or management. So L stands for size of the lesion. L1 is size of the lesion is less than 2 cm. The leukoplakia lesion is less than 2 cm. It is L1. When it is 2 to 4 cm. And L3 is when the size is greater than 4 cm. Lx is when the size is not specified. For example, in the clinical form, the size is not mentioned of the leukoplakic plaque, right? In the epithelial dysplasia, if in the biopsy you see no epithelial dysplasia, then P0. If you see distinct epithelial dysplasia, then P1. And Px is when dysplasia, about dysplasia in the form, it is when dysplasia is not specified in the pathology report. Now based on these, a staging system is given for the oral leukoplakia, and this can be asked as a short note. Even in the long answer, you should write about the modified classification and staging system for oral leukoplakia. Stage 1 is L1 and P0, that is when the size of the lesion is less than 2 cm and when there is no epithelial dysplasia, then it is called as stage 1. Stage 2 is when the size of the lesion is L2, that is size is 2 to 4 cm and there is no epithelial dysplasia. And stage 3 is when the size of the lesion is more than 4 cm and there is no epithelial dysplasia, or the size of the lesion is between L1 L2, that is either less than 2 cm or 2 to 4 cm and there is presence of epithelial dysplasia. And stage 4 is when the size of the lesion is greater than 4 cm and there is presence of epithelial dysplasia. Learn this staging system for leukoplakia. Right? 4 stages are there. Coming to the diagnostic procedure, I have already explained it. For diagnosis, you have to eliminate possible causes. That is, you will have to look for, is it a definable white lesion? For example, is it looking like a candida? Use a gauze piece and try to scrub it off. So, if you rule out that it is not looking like any other definable lesion, and based on the history of the patient and the clinical appearance, you can give the diagnosis as provisional diagnosis or the clinical diagnosis as giving clinical diagnosis of oral leukoplakia. Step 2 is you will go for a biopsy, right? Biopsy you should do for homogeneous and non-homogeneous leukoplakia both. Although in homogeneous leukoplakia, malignant transformation is less, but it can happen. Therefore, you should not take a risk and you should go for a biopsy. So, in homogeneous leukoplakia, chances of epithelial dysplasia and malignant transformation is low, but in few cases it can be otherwise. That is, in few cases even a homogeneous leukoplakia can show presence of epithelial dysplasia or malignant transformation. Therefore, taking biopsy should be a standard rule. You should take a biopsy. Although it depends upon case to case, but you should try to take a biopsy. Non-homogeneous leukoplakia, obviously these have a high malignant transformation rate and definitely mandatorily you have to take a biopsy. Biopsy, where is biopsy taken? It is taken at site of symptoms in case patient says there is presence of pain or discomfort or presence of a site with redness or induration. What do you mean by induration? Induration means the hardness is there, right? So from that site you have to take the biopsy. The other diagnostic methods like toluidine blue and exfoliator cytology, they are of limited value in case of leukoplakia. So clinical examination plus biopsy you have to do. Coming to the end, that is the treatment of leukoplakia. Now the main thing is you have to treat the cause. So for example, if the patient is a smoker or a tobacco chewer, you have to counsel the patient and you have to ask him to remove the habit. That is, he has to stop the habit to stop the progression of the leukoplakia, and sometimes it may disappear or it may reduce. So treat the cause. For example, counseling the patient to stop habits like tobacco or alcohol is the primary step in the management of leukoplakia. Then the other treatment of choice, which is the most common treatment, is surgical excision of the leukoplakia. So surgical excision is most common and the treatment of choice. You can also go for other treatment modalities like CO2 laser surgery can be done, cryosurgery. These are both other surgical options. Then conservative treatment can be done, like retinoids and other drugs can be given. Photodynamic therapy, it's a new therapy. Also, if there's a sharp cusp that is causing the leukoplakia, so you have to reduce that cusp, the sharpness of the cusp. So all these things you have to keep in mind, and follow up of the patient should be done frequently. This is very important in leukoplakia. You should keep a follow up. So next lecture will be on leukoedema. We are done with leukoplakia. To brief, most common premalignant lesion or potentially malignant disorder, white patch that cannot be defined as any other lesion, homogeneous when it is completely white, non-homogeneous when it is red and white mixed lesion. Then I told you about the staging system. Histopathologically, you cannot give it a leukoplakia report as histopathological report indicates that it is a leukoplakia. No, you have to write about the features: epithelial hyperplasia, hyperkeratosis, and presence or absence of epithelial dysplasia. Do remember the epithelial dysplasia points that I have told in the previous lecture. So do read those points as well. So next lecture will be on leukoedema. And these are my references. Shafers, this is my basic reference as a BDA student. All the BDA student, I will recommend using Shafers for oral pathology. The link for the book is below in the description box. The other books are Neville. This is also a very good book for oral pathology. And thanks for watching the lecture. I hope it helps you, and it takes lots of effort to make such videos. Your one like can give me lots of encouragement. So do like the video, subscribe to my channel, and keep watching. Also, I have a WhatsApp group. The number I'll mention on the screen. For any kind of queries, you can join that group. And thank you. Keep watching.